valuable experiences and many others, I have learned that impossible is nothing. It's nothing but a small word thrown around by little men who would rather live in a world that is handed to them than explore the opportunities that they have to change it. I have learned the meaning of individual responsibility, that no one is in charge of my welfare except myself. And I have also learned the true meaning of the word diversity. Diversity is embracing your new culture rather than expecting the culture to embrace you. For the next 2 years, I'm going to be an elementary school teacher in Marianna, Arkansas, with a program called Teach for America, a national teachers corps that places recent college graduates in low-income communities. You know, in a nation that aspires to be as to where you are born should not determine your life opportunities, there are 13 million children growing up in poverty whom in 8th grade read at a 4th grade level. Only 50% of them graduate from high school, and only 10% who make it to college graduate from college. That is a problem that money cannot buy and books cannot solve. That is when selfless individuals need to lend a helping hand. And when I say lend a helping hand, it doesn't mean going in and teaching those children how to depend on our failing welfare system, but teaching them how to be independent and self-reliant. For the past 6 weeks, I've been training in Houston, Texas. I was teaching at a Module 1 school where children got free breakfasts and free lunch. And I was handed a class of about 16 students. The class average was 37%, which meant that every single one of those students was going to be retained in 5th grade. I was overwhelmed at the magnitude of the task, but my principles were simple. The first principle that was on the board was, in this classroom, you are the authors of your own future. If you work hard, you will succeed, and if you don't, you will fail. Principle number 2, I, as the teacher, am here to provide for you only those critical tasks that you cannot perform for yourselves. The chant that those children embodied was as following. We in 5th grade going to 6th grade understand that nothing in this world that is worthy of pursuing is easy, because what comes easy, they would respond, goes easy. We also understand that leaders are just like diamonds. They are formed under hard and difficult and stressful conditions, because what doesn't kill you, they respond, makes you stronger. And we also know that the only person who can discredit you and the only person who can stop you from accomplishing your dreams is that same person you see in the mirror every morning. Because if there is a well, they would respond, there is a way. What started as a 37% class average became a 97%, which meant that every single one of those students was going to 6th grade. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a miracle. What happened in my classroom on a micro level is exactly what our founding fathers envisioned for this great nation on a macro level. Those children were craving empowerment, and my goodness, how far we have deviated from the foundation of our country. You know, my favorite quote by Abraham Lincoln speaks to the heart of this issue. He says, you cannot help the poor by destroying the rich. You cannot strengthen the weak by weakening the strong. You cannot bring about prosperity by discouraging thrift. You cannot lift the wage earner up by pulling the wage payer down. You cannot further the brotherhood of man by inciting class hatred. You cannot build character and courage by taking people's initiative and independence. And you cannot help people permanently by doing for them what they could and should do for themselves. Ronald Reagan once said, if we ever forget that we are one nation under God, then we will be one nation gone under. When Mr. Donald Huffman, the godfather of the Republican Party of Virginia, and Congressman Bob Goodlatte heard the story that I just shared with you, they told me, Adnan, you do not deserve to be a man without a country. And on the 17th of April, I raised my right hand, and not only was I sworn in as a citizen of the United States of America, but as a citizen of the greatest country on the face of this planet. You know, I do not call myself an Arab American or a Middle Easterner American, but an American. You know, some Americans need hyphens in their names because only parts of them have come over. But when the whole man has come over, heart and thought and all, the hyphen drops of its own weight. President Roosevelt once said, any man who calls himself an American but something else also is not an American at all. Because there's room for but one flag, and that is the American flag. And there's room for but one language, and that is the English language. And there's room for but one sole loyalty, and that is loyalty to our American people. I was very fortunate to be at the home of the father of our Constitution yesterday, and to read a quote that he once said. James Madison said, knowledge will forever govern ignorance. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today not as a Republican and not as a Democrat, but as a patriotic American. And as an American, the values that I have and the faith and principles that guide me are in direct opposition. Socialism, treason, and murder of the unborn are not American values. They are not family values. They are crimes. They are crimes against God, man, and justice. Thomas Jefferson once said, my God, how little do my countrymen know what precious blessing they are in possession of and what no other people on earth enjoy. From a proud American to many proud Americans, let us all be proud and humble and gracious to be citizens of this great land. And may we never forget that freedom is never free. Thank you, and God bless you.
Adnan Barqawi, ladies and gentlemen. That's what an American should be. We need 300 million people like Adnan.